also, this is the only anime that arrived this week. There's some other anime-related stuff I purchased, you know, hentai, but let's start by looking at this. There's also a couple other things I'm going to show. So, this is Mai Mai Miracle, the Kickstarter. It's been a couple years, but it finally arrived. Even this says it's funded with Kickstarter. Some things you may notice about the back. It says it's Region 2 DVD, Region B Blu-ray. I haven't taken a close look at what the my computer says that the DVD actually is, but the Blu-ray played in my Blu-ray player. So unless I have some sort of super region Blu-ray player thingy, it is either region free or they have a special region A for international people or something like that. I don't exactly know the details, but I can report that. You can see it's come on, rotate. It's pretty nice. It's somewhere in between the super solid stuff that we've seen before and the flimsy Aniplex stuff that we tend to get. Looks like we've got description of characters, scenery, stuff sort of thing, maybe? Oh. And then these, let's see. Oh, I see. Interesting. These are double-sided, and since they didn't come in a thing to open, I'm going to go ahead and go through them. Some pretty postcards. Ish. Alright, well that's the contents of the Mai Mai Miracle DVD, and then the collector's art book came with it, so we'll just thumb through that real quick here, because you can see it's a good quality book. Some real solid pages, a lot of the illustration and artwork that went into this animation. It's actually a really pretty art book. Now this isn't all of the stuff I'm going to show today. I'm just trying to decide how to dig through this pile. I guess we'll begin with a video game that arrived, and that's another Kickstarter related thing, Shantae Half Genie Hero, which I hear is also available on Steam. This is the Wii U version with which comes with a CD. And I put them back in. I've already taken them out before so that we can look at them. First, we got the CD soundtrack, Risky Beats. I don't think this is all the music for the game. It says it's select music. I've listened to some of it. It's pretty good. You can kind of see there just the list. And Dance Through the Danger, I think, would be this theme song that was used to advertise the Kickstarter. There's Roddy Tops. Did I show? Maybe I didn't show. This is one big scene here. And then, of course, we've got the Wii U case itself with the game inside. It's pretty cool stuff. Wait, I've actually not opened it. This actually has a little bit of a manual. Look at that. Character descriptions. Cast the characters. It's actually pretty cool. And my brother's actually played it. Even though he's not played any of the other games, he said it was actually pretty good. Yeah, I guess so what I'm gonna do next, let's go with this. So the anime convention I went to, I did buy one figurine. Basically, I kind of really like this one because of all the colors. I mean, I think it looks like on the little camera view screen it's doing justice. I'm not a big fan of the fact that she's wearing only underpants, but you know, it makes it kind of trickier to present it, but I love the colors they captured in the hair, the gradients of the jacket. I like how it's red and yellow. The colors just look great on it. That's kind of pretty much the only reason I selected it. Because, you know, the big problem is most of the figures there look really good. It's just what kind of stands out and makes me say, okay, I'll get that. So, outside of that, there's also, I padded this week with stuff that I've needed to catch up on, which is hentai. And I can't pile it all up here, and it's kind of risque imagery, so we're gonna only show bits and pieces. But you see, I got Dark Shells 1 and 2. I think the first one, I wasn't reading all of it, so I'm getting another one. We got the Harvest Night 1 and 2. I got Class Reunion 1 and 2. I think this is somewhat related to Class Reunion yet again or something like that. Let's see. This one is interesting. It's called a Romance is in the Flash of the Sword. And it's a 6-volume series with a very interesting name. I don't know if the premise is any good, but it's a very curious looking one. A lot of the stuff from Anime Erotica, I think some of the stuff I even purchased maybe last year around the same time, I verified it seems to be, sometimes it's a press disc, sometimes it's burn on demand. I think volume 3 here appeared to not have any data on the disc whatsoever, so there's a replacement for that coming in. Those were the only 2 replacements I had to get. I got Dream Hazard and The Pianist. I don't know what to make of them. It's just, what do the names even mean for some of these things? Sometimes they don't mean anything. We got Princess Memory, volumes 1 and 2. Does that mean it's a princess who's forgotten something? I don't know. Can Can Bunny Extra 1 and 2. Lucky 7 and Summer Fun. Desperate Carnal Housewives 1 and 2. I don't know. You may notice that once I get away from the anime erotica stuff, it's kind of more in the A's, B's, C's, and D's sort of stuff. I've got Dark Tours, Dark Love. This is because I didn't really select these so much as I just thumbed through the stuff beginning with the A's as saying, hey, I don't have Dirty by the Dozen, I don't have Cage. So, I can't really say much about them because, I don't know, I've only ripped them, but I haven't even looked at their content. We have Consenting Adultery, A Heat for All Seasons. Now, I did look at this one because it's the A's. I'm like, I should look at them. It's weird. I've seen a couple like that where they, you know, they say, oh, we've got all these different ones, and it's more like just 3 episodes. And then these last 3 are kind of notable just because we got a Boin Lecture 1, which means Lecture 2 needs to be ordered, and I did order it, and so I guess it might be here by next week or something. Darcrows Volume 1, which, you know, similarly, there's a Volume 2, and I've ordered that, and who knows, maybe it'll be here by next week. And then Cambria Volume 2. I kind of figured, you know, since I was digging through the A's, B's, and C's for stuff I didn't have, even if they only had Volume 2 there, I should probably get it and try to hunt down Volume 1. And I was actually able to do that. I kind of discovered that, part of the reason I hadn't been able to find a lot of hentai on eBay is because it's listed in a way I never expected. There's a mature section, I guess. Anyways, I think that's everything I was intending to show. This is this week's anime DVD collection update, unless I just, yeah, I'm not gonna, the hentai is a huge boost, but I'm not gonna show it, so. So overall, it was a good haul from the anime convention. If you're curious, I withdrew about $500 for all of those hentai DVDs. I mean, I withdrew that for the convention, but spent those on that. And then the figure, it's small, it's really colorful. It might have been a bit overpriced at like $190, but I don't know. You know, I tend to go a little tiny bit in the overpriced range. Whatever. Very fun. Lots of costumes. Although I think for some reason there's a stocking from Panty and Stocking with garter belt that stands out, probably because I pointed her out to a security guard at the Arboretum area in general. Just it was a really neat costume. He was talking about details, and I'm like, yeah, I kind of noticed that she had pink stripes in the hair, sort of like I think the real character did. But that aside, New Year's I actually spent showing people a couple of Satoshi Kon movies. There was a Star Wars Episode 7 in the middle there, and I guess maybe I'll talk about that later with the other Star Wars stuff, but I wanted to introduce them to Satoshi Kon through Tokyo Godfathers. It's a really great movie. If you've never seen it, it's probably a very Christmas/New Year's appropriate anime because it takes place over that time frame, and it kind of deals with some of the vague themes of that general time of year, but it's Satoshi Kon, and if you're not familiar with him, he really plays with your head, and this movie is kind of one of the lighters in that. It's interesting because one of the ways he plays with your head is he introduces characters that you're not sure what to think about. They don't feel like they're normal characters you expect to see it about, and you're like, well, yeah, and that's exactly why it'll be interesting, but then he kind of makes it interesting beyond it being abnormal, so much as he just plays with your head in great ways, and the movie itself is very neat, very touching. I think it's my favorite Satoshi Kon, probably because a lot of his stuff tends to have a kind of weak narrative. I think a Paranoia Agent was different in that regard, but that's probably because it was episodic, and his style is really well suited to being episodic, whereas something like Paprika, I mean, it had an ending, but I guess my friend didn't see it because he probably didn't know what I was trying to kind of warn him about the events. You know, it can't be too blatant. But the ending doesn't really make that much sense. It just sort of happens, and it's very dream logic. And it kind of feels like the movie itself is very dream logic-y, where you just kind of have to be in the moment for the anime, and you kind of have to turn that storytelling part of your brain off a little bit. Because your own dreams kind of tell a story. They're just kind of really shitty at it sometimes. But they are really great at introducing interesting things as it flows from thing to thing, even if, I don't know. That's always been my thought about it. It means that it felt weak from a storytelling perspective, so it didn't impress me too much the first couple of times I've watched it, but subsequent watchings of it have helped me to see it in the right mindset and just enjoy it. Let's see. And as far as I can tell, they enjoyed both the movies because, you know, Satoshi Kon is great. We had Doug Garakoa out. I couldn't even remember the name because, you know, this has been on a pile here. Among all these things to rip, there's actually a pile right here of stuff that I think I need to watch before I put it away. Things like Akito the Exile. That's kind of been a high priority, even though that's such a high priority that I've never watched it. And there's a couple others in there, and that's why they're there, I guess, because they're kind of big and bulky and hard to put other places. So this has been something to watch that I've wanted to watch, and it was actually interesting. I wouldn't say it's like spectacular per se, but it hits a lot of the right emotional notes, I think. And even just looking at it, it's maybe tricky to tell what it's like. Maybe you look at it and you think, oh, I know exactly what kind of show it is because, oh, look, it's just cute girls doing cute things. And that seems to be a part of it. And I could see how this could be a cute girls doing cute things anime that would actually be kind of maybe interesting along the same lines as Sound of the Sky. Maybe. Sound of the Sky actually had some real subversive ideas in it, whereas this one, it was kind of hard to decide what it was. I think this actually would have been better as maybe a series, just because there's a point in time in there where the characters are bonding, and you're kind of making assumptions about the flow of time, and that might mean that the original source material might have been something either intended to be adapted into a novel, or it just maybe it's just the kind of source material that usually gets adopted into a series, and it is an okay series. And this being in a movie kind of meant that it was pretty good. But I still would have I think I would have liked it as a series. Just, you know, like they introduced these things here. It might be kind of tricky for people because it seems like there could be action-y to it, or certain other elements that I don't really want to talk about too much, just because you can't really tell a lot about it. But I feel like it was a very fascinating watch. Probably not on a favorite list, but I would actually consider it a candidate for trying to show somebody who's watched a good amount of anime, is into general stuff, wants to find something kind of curious. Maybe not something that'll blow their mind, because, you know, that's rather high expectations. But, you know, something like that. And finally, last night I watched the Owari Monogatari. And it was a little bit more of a mix than Monogatari tends to be. I mean, I can't remember the early stuff, and some people say that beginning of Bakemonogatari kind of has its weakness to it. So I can't really say how well it can compare to that, because, you know, it's been so many episodes and so many years, maybe even, since then. And I guess most of this is kind of aimed at this, but the interesting thing is, even though I say it's somewhat more than usual, a little less exciting than usual, or something like that, that shouldn't be misconstrued as it being bad or mediocre. In my opinion, it just was a little weaker than usual. I guess because some of the stuff here just has to do with character history for characters that aren't our main characters. So we're not learning too much about our main characters per se. We're not quite sure how things are being judged, but the anime kind of knows it's on shaky ground in that regard. So it's not exactly insulting. So the real issue is that the entire series is more about mixing this sort of stuff with this maybe subtle supernatural vibe, which kind of felt like this thought about maybe didn't do. It meant it was kind of an interesting story to still follow. The dialogue, I feel, is still very engaging as you go along, but a little of the mystery, just a little bit, kind of gets lost. I wouldn't call it a bad arc. I would just call it weaker than I'm used to. Whereas this one was kind of what I'm used to, although something about it felt really different at the same time. I'm not sure if I want to go into too much detail about some of that stuff, since it kind of, yeah, I don't know if I want to, because there's maybe some feeling that's in there that's not something I would want to spoil exactly. But I think I enjoyed a lot of it. Part of the interesting thing about these is, you know, as the series continues and they tell the story arc, one nice thing that happens is the mixing of characters. And they don't go crazy with the mixing of characters. They actually, you know, have characters be interacted with in a somewhat reasonable way. I mean, Nisei Monogatari maybe doesn't seem that way, because I think when that one began with the Karen B arc, it seemed like Araragi visited all the other characters, and so it wasn't a mix of the characters so much as it was kind of a developing of him between each of the individual of them. But I think it's kind of after that point that you see these mixings of ideas. No, it begins a little there. I guess I kind of like it because it feels, like I said, more natural. It's like, it doesn't feel like a show which is like, oh yeah, here's this person, here's this harem, and all of them are always following him at the same time. You know, these two go on a date, but then the other five are following, wearing obvious disguises, and, you know, the standard harem tropes kind of feel like they are trying to shoehorn in all of the characters in some way, and it's an easy trap to fall into. I mean, even shonen fall into it in terms of, you know, oh, here are all the fighting guys fighting their own individual battles. You know, it's about, they come up with a wide variety of ideas, and they don't want to focus too much on any single one. They want people who enjoy this character to be able to watch that character, and that character to be seen, you know, something like that. And Monogatari, I think, kind of dodges that pretty well. It handles that very well. Maybe that's one of the refreshing things about it. Refreshing perspectives, and it's a very dialogue-heavy anime, so it kind of moves slower, but it is really hard to do Pokemon at the same time as watching that. I mean, I basically So I guess my Pokemon update is my goal was to go to work today with a Pokemon team ready in case anybody ever wanted to challenge me. I didn't expect to be challenged. It's just, it seemed to me that the longer I went without a team, the easier it would be for me to be beaten and people not to say, oh, that's a Emmett team, as opposed to I don't understand how that was an Emmett team. Emmett's my name, so that's basically the weird eccentric mindset I have. I wanted to stand out, and with the Pokemon, what I managed to do was I have basically some combination of teams. Really, I've got 3 team slots filled up in the team boxes. One of them is really more in-game teams, and what I mean by that is the 3 Pokemon I use in the battle tree right now, and then the 3 Pokemon I use in Battle Royale. Okay, so that one's not really a team per se, but there is some overlap with some of the Pokemon there and the others. I have one that has some normal Pokemon. I went for a lack of type coverage, but I feel like the team still needs some direction to it, possibly. It feels, it doesn't feel like there's a good theming per se, just very rough. It's almost like I don't do any Pokemon battles at all, and I just build teams in case I ever do. Really, what I'm going to need to do is build up entire armies of Pokemon so that I can select this one, that one, etc. But my goal with this one was to have 7th gen only Pokemon, and I don't mean Alolan forms being allowed. I mean 7th gen only, as in Pokemon whose species lines were introduced specifically in the 7th gen, and I wanted it to not include legendaries or Ultra Beasts, because some people don't like playing with those. Some people understand, okay, well, some legendary Pokemon are actually weaker than some non-legendary, so there's some that can be included and others that can't. I want to be able to play with people who have complete limitation in mind, I guess. Yeah, the same kind. Not something like, oh, I really hate this one Pokemon, so I won't battle anybody with it. If that happens to be one of the Pokemon on my team, then that's one of the Pokemon on my team. Now, I guess I don't want to talk about those Pokemon in case somebody does challenge me, but I have a 7th gen team. Okay, and then I have an Ultra Beast team, which is probably not that hard to figure out just because there's only so many combinations of Ultra Beasts you can select. And in other words, there's 7 of them, so if you have a team of 6, there's only 6 possible teams, assuming you don't have duplicates of Ultra Beasts. And I don't have duplicates of Ultra Beasts, so for that one, I guess it makes sense to say that Celesteela is the one I don't have in there. And I guess that's because as I went through and looked at the Ultra Beasts and started coming up with ideas for what I would do with some of them, or how much I enjoyed the thought of using some of them, Celesteela kind of came out on the bottom, I guess. Nothing about it made me say, okay, this is what I want to do with it. Whereas I came up with ideas for the other ones, and that may be a little reverse justification of the fact that in order to get a working Celesteela, I would have to get another copy of Pokemon Moon and play through that and capture Ultra Beasts again, which is a very time-consuming task. But at the same time, again, looking at what I did have, I came up with ideas on what I wanted to do with Guzzlord and with Buzzwole. Pheromosa's kind of a no-brainer. It's just a fascinating Pokemon. Ideas like that. Cortana and Xurkitree are also really great. I say that, but I guess it's because I really love my sweepers. So, and I think their plans are suboptimal, but one of the preparations I wanted to make for today was to have a team of level 100s, and I ended up prioritizing the Ultra Beast because in order to get them battle ready, I really needed to get them to level 100 so I could hyper train to fix some of their stats. Some of them, especially Xurkitree, were really painful to capture, so as long as they had perfect IVs in the right places and I could repair them with bottle caps, I did that. Which meant I was also grinding a ton of bottle caps. Eventually, the last day or so of leveling Pokemon up, which was, yesterday, I was fishing at the same time with the other game because it looks like your chance of getting bottle caps there are actually higher than I would have thought. Because basically, if you're at the Steelix ship and you're fishing at that one spot where Delmise can show up, if it's rippling, there's like a 5% chance that you'll encounter it. But if it's not, there's a 1% chance. It seems to me that in that state, there's a higher chance of getting a bottle cap than of encountering a Delmise, which basically meant that as long as you keep grinding that, you'll eventually get some bottle caps. And I accumulated a total of 5 of them that way, I think. That was over a 24-hour period, which did include a period of sleep in there, of course, and whatever else I had to do outside of Pokemon as part of preparing to go to work again today. But overall, the Ultra Beasts all made it to level 100. I did have to go a little rare candy crazy in order to make sure. But it meant that I have an Ultra Beast team that's all level 100 if I need to battle somebody and we don't adjust levels. And so I guess at this point it's just making sure that other team levels up, and then I can start focusing on other Pokemon. Like, I saw a YouTube video that was talking about how Persian's actually kind of interesting, and I actually agree. That Persian reminds me a lot of Mesprit from 4th Gen, what you generally tended to use it for in the Battle Tower, which is Disruption. And it looks like it's really good at it. Now, it might not be as great against a human player, but there's some interesting potential there. And I need to take a look at the other Alolan forms, because it seems to me that now I've got some 7th Gen, and since there's others to get, I should probably keep going in that direction as well. But I should look at the Alolan forms and see if any of them actually appeal to me as well. Maybe an Alolan team. I don't know. Alolan form team. I don't know. You could probably also have an Ultra or a Mega Evolution in there or something like that. Yeah, don't know. It's stuff I need to figure out, and I might tweak team as I get more Pokemon battle ready. But outside of that, then it's, okay, well, what Pokemon do I just really want that are all around available? Something like a good Salamence. My current one is still the one that I caught as a Salamence, and I could do better. And have one that Mega Evolves into Mega Salamence, and maybe be used in the Battle Tower. I don't know. I have to figure some of that stuff out. Anyways, outside of Pokemon, I did mention Star Wars stuff. I think it was Friday. I watched Rogue One with my friend. I actually thought it was a pretty good movie. I've seen Star Wars Girls' criticisms of it, and I think they're a little unnecessarily harsh. There's some things in there that would make the movie better. I agree with that interpretation of some of the points she brings up. But at the same time, I couldn't help but think that they weren't so bad off that it was unwatchable. Like, one of the points is you don't get enough time with the characters to really agree with and sympathize with them. A couple of things different between the novelization and the characters, or maybe the direction of the characters, they could have done better. But, all of that stuff I find okay, just the way it is. Part of it because I think she may have not connected with certain characters in the same way. Like, it didn't seem like she connected with the main character. And one thing I liked about the main character is she's kind of a nobody. She's kind of a nothing. I say kind of, but, it actually had a really good reason for bringing in this person who, we're like, well, why didn't we hear about this second strongest Force user in the universe? Well, no, she wasn't a Force user or anything like that. She wasn't an undiscovered gem or anything like that. It's just, there was a good reason for her, and specifically her, to be there, but she's a lot more of a normal person than a lot of the people we see sucked into Star Wars. And I think that's probably what I found most fascinating about Rogue One was when you go to A New Hope, it's kind of, and I guess Return of the Jedi is kind of similar, it's kind of the battle against the Death Star from our frontline superhero kind of people. I say it that way, and it kind of makes it sound like they're more impervious to it than they actually would theoretically be, give or take plot armor or something like that. But the point is, it's about our main characters who are our heroes, who we are following. And I like Rogue One because it's almost more about the Death Star from the point of view of more rank and file kind of people. People who aren't major, aren't important, and are kind of realizing this is a big deal. And, you know, I think some of the imagery kind of supports that. Some of the perspective, some of the character development does as well, I think. Because, you know, this was the thing that I thought Star Wars Girl kind of got a little wrong. Was our main character's motivation. It's because she wasn't this, oh, I'm a badass thief or something like that. It's because she was kind of a nobody who had parental abandonment issues, who kind of saw these events and kind of grew attached to them in a way that I thought made sense. Maybe there's just something weird with me. I'm also somebody who thinks that Tenchi in Tokyo is better than Tenchi Universe, when most people think the other way around. But yeah, outside of that, I did watch Star Wars Episode 7. You know, with a friend and his mom that I was watching with these Satoshi Kon stuff, because apparently his mom hadn't seen it. You know, that seemed like a nice thing to do, and you know, I think it was. This was my first time rewatching it. I thought it was actually still pretty good, still enjoyable. You know, that's one of those things where you kind of understand some of the complaints people have, and oh yes, when Kylo Ren takes his mask off, you know, I kind of felt like I wasn't that bothered by it watching it this second time. So I'm actually looking forward to Episode 8, just because, you know, even though 7 is a rehash of a lot of themes and ideas, it's not exactly the same, and it means there's some possibility for different things to happen in the next one, and it's interesting to see what does happen. They could still play it a little safe and I think still be an enjoyable movie, and at the same time, you know, just little threads of new interesting things, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with it. Uncharacteristically optimistic, I guess, but yeah, it is what it is. Alright, well, I think that's everything. I'm trying to look around. Is there anything I really want to mention? Because there's a lot of stuff. But, no, it's, I think I get to relax a little bit with the Pokemon stuff now, because I've repaired the Ultra Beast bottle caps I still maybe want. But for the time being, I can just relax, level Pokemon up. Maybe I can choose to start breeding some instead. Because like I said, Persian may have some interesting potential as an interestingly disruptive Pokemon, and I want to. That could be fun to explore. Oh well, y'all have a nice week.